Hey guys, in honor of the new Jack Ryan movie coming out in January, Jack Ryan's Shadow Recruit, I thought I'd go back and review the movie that brought Jack Ryan to the silver screen, The Hunt for Red October. Now before I get this review started, I want you guys to know that I haven't read the book, the original book that this movie's based off of, so I'm going to be judging this as its own individual movie. I just want you guys to know that. And now that I've got that out of the way, I hope you enjoy the review. In the year 1984, several months before Mikhail Gorbachev comes into power in Russia, the Soviet Union launches their newest ballistic missile submarine, the Red October. This sub houses a newly developed magneto-hydrodynamic propulsion system, a caterpillar drive, which allows it to run in the water completely invisible to our modern sonar nets. Commanding this vessel is the Soviet Navy's most decorated officer, Captain Marko Ramius. And while initially setting out for a test run of the Red October's caterpillar drive, Ramius has killed the Soviet political officer on board and hijacked the Red October with the intention to defect to the United States. Miles away in D.C., the Joint Chiefs of Staff have been given the impression that Ramius is intending to unload a payload of missiles against the coastline of the United States. However, Jack Ryan, an analyst for the Central Intelligence Agency, develops a theory that Ramius is trying to defect. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs has given Ryan 48 hours to find the Red October and discern Ramius's true intentions. With time running out, lies and distortions coming out of Moscow, and the U.S. Navy given orders to find the Red October and sink it, will Ryan be able to bring Ramius out of the grip of the Soviet Union's iron fist? Based on the best-selling novel of the same name, John McTiernan's screen adaptation of The Hunt for Red October ushered in a new kind of thriller film and brought Jack Ryan, the character originally created by the late Tom Clancy, to the silver screen. Unlike the James Bond films of the time, which were everything was very flashy and exaggerated, extravagant, and over the top, this film portrays the Cold War in a much more serious manner for those filmgoers who are always seeking a little more. People who grew up in this time frame, this era, and were paying close enough attention will recognize the tense political atmosphere that was present at the time. Each character, of course, has his own flaws and belief structures. We have our good guys, Jack Ryan and Marko Ramius. We have our bad guys, the Soviets. And then we have all these other characters that they're not there to hinder the purpose of the story, but they're there to kind of just help further drive it along. Admiral Greer, Ryan's boss at the CIA. Vasily Borodin, Ramius' second-in-command on board the Red October. Bart Mancuso, captain of the USS Dallas, which is tracking the Red October after it disappeared from their sonar net at the beginning of the film. All of these characters are portrayed in a very realistic way and seem very human, as opposed to a number of other military films that I've seen where the acting is overdone and the action is just way too over the top. And while I'm on the subject of action, don't expect too much of it in this film. Even if you look at the fact that director McTiernan had previously also done Predator and Die Hard, this is a political military thriller that does not try to go pedal to the metal for the action. Actually, I think there's only like 2 major action sequences in the entire movie. The scene where the Red October has to evade an airdropped Soviet torpedo, and the sequence where the Red October is being chased through the water by the Soviet sub, the Konevalov, commanded by Ramius' old pupil, Captain Tupolov. Unlike Bond, Mission Impossible, Transporter, the Bourne movies, and others I won't mention, this movie doesn't rely on action to help drive the movie forward. It's the situation that drives this film. Ramius has a very well-constructed plan in his head, but the full extent of his defection depends on whether or not Ryan can convince his subordinates that Ramius is not an enemy. Now, since this film was released during the infancy stages of CG, all the underwater and sub stuff was done practically. Fearing that the image would be too blurry if he decided to shoot the subscenes underwater, McTiernan instead decided to go with simply using models on a blue screen set with miniatures and smoke to help create the feeling of a deep sea underwater environment. And the CG budget for this movie was probably used mostly to create the underwater algae so that you're not just looking at subs and smoke. And it actually looks like you're watching the Red October or the USS Dallas or that DSRV that Ryan and Mancuso use to move from the Dallas to the Red October without surfacing. I mean, aside from the algae, the torpedoes and these chaff countermeasures that the Red October launches to throw off enemy torpedoes, that's all obviously CG. And while some of the interior sub scenes were shot inside of a real working sub, a good majority of them were shot on what's called a gimbal, where the set is made to dip at certain points and give the actors a sense that they're in a real working submarine. The music is what you'd expect from a thriller or an action movie that came out in the late 80s, early 90s, so I'm not going to go into too much detail about it, except that I really like the whole Cold War theme that is present in the soundtrack, given the year that this movie is set. And one last thing that really sells this movie, forget the primitive effects, forget the music, forget the story, what really sells this movie is the acting. Nobody is overdoing their role in this film, and each individual actor shines on his own in each given scene. You can watch them, it's like the Bourne Identity, you can watch them and really believe they are who they're supposed to be portraying.
Comrades, this is your captain. It is an honor to speak to you today, and I'm honored to be sailing with you on the maiden voyage of our motherland's most recent achievement. And once more, we play our dangerous game. A game of chess against our old adversary, the American Navy.
Gentlemen, the last 24 hours have seen some extraordinary Soviet naval activity. The first to sail was this ship, we believe called the Red October, in reference to the October Revolution of 1917. A variant of the Typhoon class, she's some 650 feet long and 32,000 tons submerged displacement, roughly the same size as a World War II aircraft carrier. We believe that these doors here on the bow and again on the stern enclose a unique propulsion system, a magneto-hydrodynamic drive or caterpillar that would enable the sub to run virtually silent.
Have I got this straight, Chauncey? A $40 million computer tells you you're chasing an earthquake, but you don't believe it. And you come up with this on your own. Yes, sir. Including all the navigation there.
I've got all.
Relax, Chauncey, you sold me. Tony, I want you to plot us a speed course for the bottom end of Red Route 1. We'll never find him in those canyons. First, take us to periscope depth. This we gotta phone in.
Do you think they would let me live in Montana?
I would think they'll let you live wherever you want.
Good. Then I will live in Montana. And I will marry a round American woman and raise rabbits. And she will cook them for me. And I will have a pickup truck. Or possibly even a recreational vehicle. And drive from state to state.
Who's giving the briefing?
You are. The yeoman will have all the slides laid out for you, so all you gotta do. Look, no one understands this material better than you. Just give him a rundown on the sub and a précis of the stuff in your hand. He's liable to ask some direct questions. Give him direct answers. Tell him what you think.
So bottom line, if you're looking for a movie that has a truly gripping story, substance over style, memorable characters, and historical relevance, I promise you, you will not be disappointed with Hunt for Red October.
What is it?
I miss the peace of fishing, like when I was a boy. 40 years living at sea. A war at sea. A war with no battles, no monuments, only casualties. I widowed her the day I married her. My wife died while I was at sea, you know.